What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the Locks DFS NBA breakdown video. I am your host, Christian Hardy. I am at ByHardy on Twitter. I am ByHardy on DraftKings. Please follow me on Twitter. Hit me up on there at ByHardy. I am from LocksDFS.com, and we're going to be going over this little four-game, kind of a boring, I'm going to be honest, NBA slate. Not a lot of injury news, not a lot of clear value popping out, but we're going to go ahead and get into it. Talk about some of my favorite cash and GPP plays. But before we do that, so many of you guys who are watching this video are not subscribed. Please hit that subscribe button. Get these videos into your inbox to prepare for your NBA daily, make it part of your regimen, content routine, I guess you could say. We really appreciate you guys if you would do that. And also, if you do subscribe and you comment on this video, comment with your favorite value play on the day, under $6,000 on DraftKings. Do that, and you'll have a chance to win a free season pass from LocksDFS.com. Season passes are $99 for NFL or NBA. And for NBA, $99, you're going to be getting our lock sheets with our player grades, values, locks, and analysis on every player we're considering, as well as our value and stud rankings every single slate. So check that out. We do it for FanDuel and DraftKings. I know I focus on DraftKings in these videos, but we do play FanDuel as well. So we do tend to focus on DraftKings for the sake of these videos, though. So yeah, do that. Check us out, LocksDFS.com. You're going to be getting all that every single day, all the way through the NBA season. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this slate where we don't have a lot of injury news. The only injury news that's really come up that is kind of relevant is that Justice Winslow is questionable with a headache. That came out earlier today around shoot-around, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that. Derek White is questionable as well. That could open up some backup guard minutes for Bryn Forbes, Patty Mills, that sort of thing. Those guys would be more interesting to me if we see Derek White sit out. And then we still have to wait on the news on Enes Kanter, who is actually very cheap if he does end up playing. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with this and if he's going to be on a minutes limit with that knee injury, what the deal is with that. Other than that, there's not a lot of injury news, so just going to kind of go ahead and get into my favorite plays. And obviously, the top pretty much only have one main option here. I'm sure, Walker and Lillard, first of all, if you can find the value to get them in with Kawhi, they're going to be in play. But the guy that I'm focusing on at the top, I think he's a pretty clear top play here, is Kawhi Leonard. This is the highest total game on the slate. Let's pull up Fantasy Labs real quick. Highest total game on the slate at 231. You have the other three 13 points under. You have the Clippers with a 7-point team total higher than any other team on the slate. So we're obviously going to be looking at the Clippers pretty heavily, especially in Kawhi just got a rest yesterday. He should be good for at least like 34 minutes here. You've seen hit a few of these games at 30, 32, but after a day of rest, sitting out last game, I think they'll give him additional run in this game, especially if it stays close. Kawhi is averaging a ridiculous 1.75 fantasy points per minute this year. If every single minute counts for this guy because he's just going to accrue stats in so many different ways, defensive, assists, rebounds, all that sort of stuff. Even if that drops to 1.5 over time, you're still getting a pretty good value here at 9.6K. I just think he's a pretty smash play here against Portland's bottom half defensive efficiency this year. And of course, like I said, Portland also top 10 in pace. So I think Kawhi is pretty clearly the top play here. Should get a ton of ownership as well at the top. While, of course, Kemba's playing a revenge game, but he's priced up really, really high. So he's pretty much just going to be mostly GPP for me. But he's definitely, if you can jam him in, he's okay. Lillard's in a pace-up game against, the highest total game on the slate, I should say. Actually, they're playing faster than the Clippers. He's a little bit interesting in the top here. But after that, the next player I really want to talk about is Jimmy Butler, 7.2K. He's much, much more expensive on FanDuel, probably just a GPP play on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, this is the lowest price he's been all year. And it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense why he got this giant price decrease. The lowest he's been before, 7.7K. And then, he plays in that blowout against Denver. And almost, he's still, at 7.2K, he almost hits 5X in that game, despite getting blown out and only playing 29 minutes. He's played 29 minutes over the last two games. Both those games have been blowouts. So, I'm not concerned at all about his minutes. I think that we're going to be seeing pretty consistently Jimmy Butler play 33 to 35 minutes in close games. This game has a 1-point spread. If we go back over to this Vegas tool, it has a 1-point spread currently. So this game is expected to be close. Both these teams run top 11 in pace in the NBA, and 1-point spread means that Butler should see that full complement of minutes. Of course, we could see also a slight bump for Butler if Winslow is out. He's questionable, of course, but that would give him a little bit of a bump. Could see a few more minutes in terms of as the primary ball handler. That's possible, even though none should do a lot of that. Butler is at 1.37 fantasy points per minute so far with Miami. And at 32 minutes, even if he only plays 32, which I think he could play up to like 35, 36 potentially, the price just doesn't make sense here. So I think, like I said, with Kawhi, I think he'll be one of the chalkiest players in the slate. While I think Butler on DraftKings will be just as chalky. The price just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think people will notice that and be like very shocked by Butler's price. So probably going to end up being the fastest game on the slate, even though these teams aren't quite as efficient as like Portland and the Clippers. But still, you're looking at a game that should be plenty of points in. Going to one team I wanted to talk about a lot was Portland, because all these pretty much all these guys except for Lillard are very, very cheap right now. Not that Lillard isn't playing that price, he absolutely is. I mean, dude can shoot lights out. He's going to see the defensive Patrick Beverley, but still at 9.1K, I'm definitely a little bit interested. But these mid-range guys for Portland are really interesting to me. I mean, Hassan Whiteside, let's talk about him first. Okay, sorry, my notes are out of order. I actually skipped over some things. But let's talk about Whiteside. He got this price decrease to 6.4K. It is the lowest, tied with the lowest he's been all year. We've seen the upside of Whiteside this year. I mean, 43, 40. He hits 35 here, 40 there. The decrease is the price staying here is a little bit interesting, of course, in the highest total game of the day. He's a 1.27 fantasy point per minute producer this year. We've seen that upside that he has. We've seen that his floor should be... the floor really comes down to how much scoring he's going to, or the upside really comes down to how much scoring he's going to do, but at the end of the day, he's probably going to end up with at least, 8 points in most games for the most part, and that's if he doesn't get to the free throw line. I think we can pretty much account for him scoring like 4 field goals a game down in the paint. He just makes a ton of sense here in the mid-range. But I did skip over the other center I wanted to talk about, so I'll come back to Portland in just a second. But the other center I wanted to talk about was Steven Adams, who, as of recording this video, actually isn't getting a ton of ownership. I think that's going to change. Adams just kind of slides into your lineup really easily. Again, like Whiteside, he's just very, very cheap, 5.4K. It's the interesting thing about this slate where DraftKings adjusted a lot of players way up, Gordon Hayward and the likes of those guys. All those Celtics are way priced up. Steven Adams, meanwhile, has got the lowest price that he's seen all year. We know Steven Adams always has a tremendous floor. I mean, dude is pretty much, if he scores 10 points, is going to probably get you a double-double. He's going to grab you a block or two, and he's going to, as long as he can score those 10 points, he's a very, very solid threat for a double-double. 5.4K, he is returning from that injury. But he's easily a fantasy point per minute player, likely to see about 26 minutes or something like that is what I'd probably put him at. But of course, you could see up to like 28, 29 in what should be a competitive game. If Muscala is out, not that Muscala is really a massive part of the rotation or anything, but we could see Adams' minutes solidify just a little bit. And could get him up to like 29 or something like that, which would be great to see, especially at a 5.4K price tag. I think the price here is really great. I like the price on FanDuel as well as 6K. He was one of my favorite plays I put in on my FanDuel lineup at 6K. I think he just has an awesome floor, and he has some upside as well, even in a decently tough rebounding matchup. I talked about Bam. I wanted to mention one other guy on the Phoenix side. So Kaminsky's a decent value play. I'm gonna save Kaminsky for a second. I'm going all out of order here, but Kelly Oubre is who I like at 6K. I like his floor at 6K. I think you got a floor of at least 4x here, and I think that he has the upside to go a little bit higher than that. He should be the second guy they turn to in terms of scoring. I know Rubio has been doing a little bit more scoring recently, but I do think in general that Oubre is going to be the second guy to take shots on this team with no Ayton here. He can do it from the outside. He can get to the hoop, and he can also do a little bit of ball handling as well. Just a tad. Obviously he's gonna be out there with Rubio most of the time, so Rubio's gonna be on ball, but he can definitely get out there and do a little bit of ball handling himself. I just like the upside here at 6K, and like I said, it should be the second go-to in what is a pace-up game against Miami. Miami's playing at the 8th fastest pace in the league right now. Okay. Going back to the going back to the Trailblazers, because they are just an interesting place for value today. So first of all, you have I haven't talked about McCollum yet at 6.1K. He's similar to Whiteside, where it's like his floor game is going to be close to value for the most part. Obviously, you've seen these 2 games. He hasn't come through with a ton of scoring, but I'm not too concerned about it. Most times you're going to be at least a floor of like 24 points for the most part out of McCollum. And you see this game against Denver. That's a tough matchup here, where Clippers on the wing aren't going to be tough as a defensive matchup here. unless you see like Kawhi match up with him or something like that. I guess that's possible, and that could definitely make it tough for McCollum. But the issue with McCollum to me is that his usage has really come down this year with Bam on the floor. I know Bam isn't taking a ton of usage, but it definitely is hurting McCollum's production so far this year. I just think that at some point McCollum's going to get it back on track here. He's down to 6.1K. It's pretty much the cheapest you're going to get him out. If he can score buckets, he's going to give you a ton of upside at this price. So I think he's a solid mid-range play here as well. Then you have some really thin value on this slate where, it ends up being, to me, that Rodney Hood ends up, as of now, unless we get some more news, Hood is probably my favorite value on the slate at 3.8K on FanDuel. I think he's in the low fours on FanDuel. 3.8K on DraftKings, in the low fours on FanDuel. I'm forgetting what he is, but I like him on both sides. He's going to play upwards of 32 minutes, and on a slate where that's pretty devoid of value, if you can get a guy that's under 4K playing that many minutes, he's just going to be one of the best value plays on the slate. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. You're not going to be able to find guys like this that are playing that many minutes down here under 4K, especially not on a slate where there are pretty much no injuries to be going around, at least not injuries that DraftKings have not accounted for in the pricing yet. So he's going to hit value more times than he's not going to at this price, and he has upside for 30 plus. We saw that a few games ago, which is just fantastic at this price. I think we can pretty much account on Hood for 16, which that's just about a value. And when I feel like I'm getting a floor of like 15, 16 in his minutes, you gotta love that. Even as a guy who's only going to put up like 0.6, 0.7 fantasy points per minute, I know it's a big difference there, but he's in that range. When you're playing that many minutes, I really, really like it, especially in the highest total game of the day. And then I mentioned briefly Frank Kaminsky, but let's talk about him real quick. My concern with Kaminsky is that Baines has been playing very, very well, and Kaminsky is pretty much only playing the backup 5 minutes. So if the Suns continue to keep Baines on the floor for a long time, Kaminsky's just not going to get very much run, and you've seen his minutes dip in these last few games. However, if we see a game like this where we can get on the floor for 22, even 24 minutes, if you can get a few more 4 minutes in place of Saric and play next to Baines, that's really going to help out Kaminsky's floor at 4K. I'm not in love with the price, but like I said, if we can see him get 23, 24 minutes, he is about a fantasy point per minute producer. He makes a lot of sense. I definitely wouldn't want to run him next with Baines too often, especially, Miami is a pretty tough rebounding matchup. They've been pretty solid, so yeah, I'm worried about Kaminsky's minutes, but I think you have a floor of like 20 here with the upside of like 24 in most outcomes, unless something crazy happens and he goes off and they want him on the floor for longer. But I don't really see that happening too often. Hazonia for Portland also is cheap, and that's another value option here. A little bit of a risky value option, but he is getting minutes with no Zach Collins on the floor, so he's a very solid value option. His price doesn't come up too much for me. Definitely be someone I'm considering who, I think these are the only 2 games he's played without Collins so far, and we've seen 37 and 26 minutes. So we're getting those kind of minutes of 4K in a pace-up spot. He makes some sense, and he can play multiple positions for them as well. They can move him around, so that really helps him out as well. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up. That's most of the plays I wanted to talk about in this video. We will obviously have more on the lock sheet with our analysis and grades, and our tiers and that sort of thing, value rankings, all that stuff. So please check us out, locksdfs.com. I am at ByHardy on Twitter, and we are at locksdfs on Twitter. Check us out, locksdfs.com. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys back here tomorrow. Peace.